Complicated.
Let's let them in. Here they all come. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Trash Talk number 23. My name's Ian Maverick, coming to you from sunny Melbourne, Australia. We've got 2 hours of trash talk about our favourite computers. I'll be hosting. I'm going to go around everyone in the room and see what everyone's been up to. We'll give a little report on any news or shows coming up, and yeah, if you got a question or you want to butt in, just raise your hand and say so. I don't have many rules here. If you've got mobile phones, set them to silent, and if you could refrain from swearing. I'm Australian, so I'm the only one allowed to swear here.
Not fair.
All right, let's get started with my main man, Peter Stinsky. How you going, mate?
Hey, everybody. Doing well. Let's talk about what has transpired since the last live show. Well, we released a new episode of the podcast, episode 42. Hope everybody enjoyed that. And we'll be recording another episode next weekend, I believe. And joining us as a special guest is going to be Mr. Arno Puder, and he's going to talk about all of his great devices like Tris.io and Pocket Tris that he's invented and donated to the community. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to be exhibiting at VCF East at the end of April. So if any of you are going to be there, stop by and say hello. I'll be exhibiting my games, roundup and breakdown, and I'll have maybe sort of a little bit of an informative area where I show how I do modern day development of TRS-80 games. So if you're interested in learning about that, stop by. And what's kind of really cool is they are letting me bring my camper there. So I am going to camp out at VCF East in my camper. So
neat.
Yeah.
In the car park there and just live in your camper like an RV.
But I'm not dumping anything in the sewers. Don't worry. So
Okay.
And I did want to talk about a few items of acquisition. So I'm going to share my screen here. Give me a second. All right. So I
haven't powered it up since 2011, but I know what those are.
You know what this is? Yeah. So a couple weekends ago, I visited a local collector. Some of you may know him, Kelly Levitt. So he's selling a few items and he got in touch with me. And so I stopped by and went through his extensive collection and picked out a few items. This is the multi-pen plotter that I picked up. This is going to be a spare for me because I already have one, a really nice one, like all in original condition. This will be my parts plotter baby. Well, I'll see if I can get it running. Picked up a toaster. This is a Model 12 16B 6000 external disk drive. It's an interesting one because it only has a single disk. I've never seen one before with only a single disk, which is kind of cool. I picked up some drives. One that I needed for my collection was the 70 meg drive. Now, internally they're all the same. It's the 35 and the 15 meg drives, but because it has the badge, me being a collector, this was one I needed to fill out my collection. So I'm really happy I was able to obtain one of those. This one I was really stoked about. This is a 4 megabyte 68,000 board for the Tandy 6000. Yeah, Kelly happened to have one, and I've never seen it before, and it's the only one I've ever seen. So really excited to get this into my collection, and it actually works.
Is it an Admiral Radio Shack product or an aftermarket one?
No, this is an aftermarket product. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And you can see it's using those, what are they, SIPs? It's not using the typical RAM chips that we find on these boards. So yeah, 4 megabytes, and with Xenix 3.3 on my Tandy 6000, I can access all of this 4 megabytes in user RAM. So
God, you just about have to beef up your power supply to power that thing.
I didn't have to. Stock power supply worked fine. I think this is probably more efficient than running 4 1 megabyte boards.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see. So it's not in addition to the RAM that's already in the machine. It
It's
it
a
goes in
replace-
place of the RAM boards that are in the machine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
What else did I get? Oh, I got picked up a 4D, Tandy 4D, nice one. Apparently, it has the Radio Shack high-res graphics card in it. I haven't powdered it up yet, but
Nice find. This is nice
Yeah,
and clean.
it is. Yeah. This is really cool. I know some of you know what it is. This is the prototype of the Tandy multiplexer for the video transmission service that they sold. What multiplexer is, it basically contains a bunch of modems on these modem cards. It supports up to 16 telephone lines, so modem connections coming in. And it would run it in concert with a Model 16 running Xenix that would connect via the serial ports through a connection in the back. And it basically allow you to run like a what I call a glorified BBS. So you could have data, people submitting data or obtaining data from your environment. What I guess it was sort of oriented towards news organizations and libraries, that sort of thing.
Does it weigh as much as it looks like it weighs?
It weighs a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
External Model 2 disk bay heavy or almost?
Heavier.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Now this is the prototype. I think the factory mux was a little bit more compact, but it did still have all the cards, so it was pretty heavy.
What speed with the modems, Pete?
You would know, Aaron. Was that Aaron?
No, Steve.
Oh,
So
Steve. I forget. 300. I think they were up to 9600 baud, but yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, this is that memory card again. Okay, so this is one of the modem boards that's inside computer.
I wonder if it's a
So-
Paul T. Schreiber modem. He did a lot of the modems around that time.
Likely, yeah. Each of these boards supports 2 modems, so this is a double modem board. So there are 8 of these boards in the box. And then there are 4 of these serial boards. So you can see on the left-hand side here, there are 4 modem connections into the serial board. And then that gets the data onto the bus, which then gets over to the Model 16 via the serial port. And all of the POTS lines come out the back through one connector here. So all of these lines would go to individual phone lines, all these pins. And this is it has a custom Model 2 CPU board to run the local operating system for it. And you can see that ROM chip is labeled MUX boot. So it has a special Model 2 boot ROM. Essentially boots over the serial port when it's connected to the Model 16. This boot ROM just enables that booting over the serial port. So it loads the operating system from the Model 16 at power up. And this is the memory board that's in there. So there's a Model 2 CPU board and Model 2 memory board in there, as well as all the modem boards. Oh, and this is just proof that the 4 megabyte memory board works. So you can see I got 4 megabytes of RAM in Tandy Xenix as user RAM. That's all I had to share.
Very nice.
Thanks, Peter. That's cool. All that stuff. I can just imagine your back after lifting that mux. Yeah.
I had my son do the heavy work.
Okay. Good to
Oh,
put
I'm
them.
not drinking a beer today because I gave up beer for Lent. So I just have a coffee.
Irish coffee?
Don't tell my wife.
I just drink water. I don't hit the beer until 9 a.m. So
What time is it there now?
8:10 in the morning on Sunday morning. Yeah. So I do this because I'm crazy. Okay. I suppose everyone has heard that John Roach died.
Yeah.
So, sad, 83 or 84 years old, something like that. Instrumental in getting the TRS-80 off the ground. So it was sad to see him go. Was one that Pete and I always thought would be great to interview, and could never really secure one with him, unfortunately. But it's worthwhile mentioning if anyone runs into these old pioneer guys from the TRS-80 days, to try to as best you can put them in touch with us and get interviews from them while we can. It's all good and well writing about these people, and you know, for a fair number of them, there's a good amount of information from them, but talking to them directly and getting their side of the story is often just as fascinating, or if not more so. So if you run into any of these old pioneers or anything, just put them in touch with Pete or myself, and we'll reach out to them and try to make them a future interview. So yeah.
I'd love to get
Roach.
Bill Gates. Bill Gates would be a coup.
I reckon he would actually like to talk about this era, because he probably spends most of the time talking about spreadsheets and profit and losses and KPI and you know, all his business oriented stuff. But you know, give him a chance to talk about the crazy days, you know, up until standardization. So it would I don't know how it would go about reaching out to him, but
He was an important player in the history of the TRS-80. He really was.
Yeah. I mean, pass the message on to him that like John Roach, we don't want to lose the story without his take on it, you know, given that it's some 45 years behind us now. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Moving right along. Peter Phillips, how you going?
All right. Not too much to report. I did a little bit of work on actually the Corvus high level emulation, but it was mostly going back over, if anyone recalls, we found two operating systems, a Model 2 one called Core DOS, which is an overlay on Tris DOS, and New DOS 82-C. And I spent quite a bit of time going over the instructions. I think there's like 20 or 30 steps to install it. And when I went back to it, it took a little while to get it to work again. So I'm going to dig into that. However, I got sidetracked. There's always been an ongoing problem with the HXC tools that if you use them to convert DMKs, they tend to mangle it. Either they don't deal with bitstream line conversions, so the DMK you get from an HFE that you captured ends up being just garbage. Or when I looked into it closer, it won't deal with mixed FM or MFM on a track. So if you have a dual booting floppy and you convert it using HXC, you'll lose probably the MFM boot block and so on. So I have a fix for them, but it still needs to go through a bunch of testing and going through like hundreds of images and seeing what works and what doesn't. But, unfortunately, when you're converting disk images, there's no ideal solution. Mentally, I've always thought of disks as being some kind of perfect array, but in fact, they're closer to a cassette tape that it has to be parsed. And once the conversion tool reads an image and turns it into tracks, it's ambiguous what you should get out of it when you convert it back, especially if you have headers that have CRC errors, like should you count them or not. So that's in the works. And I got further distracted and I went and looked at MAME to see how they were handling it. And it was, as far as DMK is concerned, it was kind of the same story, that they handle kind of plain Jane double density stuff so, but anything fancy, and well, at least they won't even try to write the format. But and then I played with the MAME TRS-80 emulators and kind of went, this is okay, but you guys need to tweak things a bit, I think. So it was hard to get them to work because each of the different TRS-80 emulators has a different set of disk formats that will load. And if you don't give it the right disk format, it says that it doesn't understand the format. So yeah, that was it. I'm all over the map.
Cool. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the update. Let's see. Ira, how you going, mate?
Things are great over here. How are things down under?
Well, there's no more floods and there's no fires at the moment and no sharks eating people. So it's been a good week.
So something's on the horizon now.
Say that again?
Something's got to be on the horizon then.
Well, yeah. I mean, I tried traveling last month and that was fun. With traveling during a pandemic, all the paperwork and everything. It was well, all that and less. So, but I'm getting ready for Tandy Assembly in September. So hopefully all this crazy amount of testing that gets done to get on any aeroplane will be sorted out. So
As
yeah.
always, feel free to book through Los Angeles. I've got some work for you.
I know. I always go through Los Angeles, but my connecting flight doesn't allow me to leave the airport, unfortunately. But yeah, it'd be good to catch up one day. I've got
a 5-day layover would be perfect.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. How's the site going? Any news?
I had seen some stuff going on in the Discord, just a little small discussion about the proper jump for exiting to DOS. And I just took that as an excuse to turn my eye to the ROM disassembly page and the important RAM address page, which kind of the lines blur a little bit because 3000 to 4000 is one or the other, depending on which model you have. But I decided to drastically augment the stuff with additional source material. So a lot of the RAM addresses and the ROM as well have been updated with more information and so on. Just continue to read disks, continuing to send a lot of disks. And thanks to Patrick, I'm trying to figure out whether I'm partially out of alignment and other people are partially out of alignment. And that pair has brought up a couple of people that disks didn't work.
You're welcome.
Patrick sent them out. They worked for one of the people who then subsequently said he can't format disks that he can read. So I'm thinking instead of it being me, it's now back to him. And I think if he swaps his drives, but I'm probably going to swap drives as well, because if I have two people that complain, then it's time. So that's a today thing. I did purchase a couple more on eBay. They are getting more and more expensive. But and other than that, read a couple of sets, caught some issues that both, I guess primarily Peter managed to jump on with regard to some disk issues in the emulator. Both super utility and motor fast was showing back up again. And they jumped on it, and that's where I am. And on the issues Peter was raising about the double conversions, I have not. I think my feelings about the stream readers are well known, and thanks to Quentin, I'm still reading native, at least into DMK. So we're not doing double conversions there.
You know, Ira, if anybody's disk drive needs to be aligned, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm going to swap. I'm going to swap. Listen, people always write back, hey, thanks, they work great. So I've always been under the belief that they are. Maybe one of the sets I had just read, which was particularly awful, maybe one cleaning too much did something.
What happens also is that it's not just the alignment with the track, there's also the azimuth of the head. So when you read a lot or write a lot of diskette, you're basically wearing the head down and the azimuth could be crooked. And that's one of the tests you do with the software with the Dyson disk. And if the azimuth is too off, you might as well just kick that head off completely and just change it or trash the drive. Because if your azimuth is off, you may be able to read and write on your drive, but people are going not to be able to read it because it'll be too faint for them. It's just a weird way of another problem that arises with age.
Well, yeah, and I'm perfectly willing to take two cases as being perfectly dispositive on the issue, and I'll just I'll swap it today.
Well, it was weird for these two because they could read mine and then they tried to read yours and they couldn't. Then I made them do a backup on the same drive and then it worked. And then they couldn't read it on the second drive, which kind of points to an alignment on their side of things.
Yes.
But like I said, the two drives I use those, just for TRS. It's my work desk computer, and I know the azimuths on it are perfectly. It works, and I think that's what's coming into play here is just the wear on the head.
How do you test a disk drive in a PC with a Dyson? Because I have one or two Dysons lying around.
There's a Dyson for PC. The procedure is the same. The software, the Dyson disk for PC comes with 2 or 3 disks. One of them contains the software you run, and then it goes and reads that track for the azimuth.
No, I'm pretty sure
it shows it on the screen.
I'm pretty sure the Dysons I have are TRS-80. So that's why I've never used them. People send in all kinds of disks.
There's only one disk.
Yes, one disk.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see if I have the PC one. I think I may have 2 or 3 disks in mine, and I can't remember. If I do, I'll send you the disk so you can use it.
No worries. I
have no use.
I do have some level of supply of floppy drives still, and I'm just putting them in box, waiting for you to say go ahead and send them to you.
Well, if you want to send me drive to test, you can go ahead.
No. I've got about 7 or 8 for you to repair.
Well, I've got. They finally left my shed. My kitchen is finally cleaned up, so I actually have space in the shed again.
Well, first we have to get you the 4P. Then you can get my disk drives. I'm just going to keep you constantly going.
My next step is finishing that LW smart.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, that's basically me at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. The floppy drives are getting hard to come by. But one of my side businesses, because I have to make ends meet, is finding bunches of consignments of 90s PCs, 386s, 486s. They're still in Australia, at least. The odd warehouse that has these rooms full of them, and they need someone to come along and take them all and throw a bunch of money at them to clear out their room. And I'm finding lots of them with 5 1/4 drives, but they're all the 1.2 megs, which is great if you're into your PC era stuff. But we need the 360K drives to use on TRS-80s and with the cat weasel to create discs. So yeah, those things are getting hard to find.
I use a 1.2. I'm not using a 360. If I used a 360, I'd have a lot of trouble with the cat weasel because I'm getting discs from everybody. I could get a single density, single-sided disc, throw in the next one, and it could be a mixed density, track 0, 10.
Have you tried it with a 360? Because I've used for about 7 years the same 360K drive, and I've been able to read single and double density discs and make them no problem, even Coco discs.
But what happens when you wind up with an 80 track double-sided double density on a 360K drive?
Oh, I've never been sent one.
Well, I get sent everything. So like I said,
Ira, send them to me. I have got an 80K drive, 80 track drive.
I'm perfectly, no, I use the 1.2s, the GFRs and whatever else I can get my hands on. And I've never had a problem, but I couldn't restrict myself to the 360 because I just get these boxes. And the box that I had just gotten, like I said, not only did it have original Omicron discs, which for some reason with 35 track mixed density, but all, there'd be the occasional double-sided, double density 80 track in there. And the Cat Weasel does a great job of just reading whatever's thrown at it with the same command line. But if I had a 360, my head would be crashing. I could never try this with a 360.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to read 80 track with a 360, but it's possible that 80 track drive usage is probably a more higher in the US than it is over here. I rarely see them. I've got on my Model 4D an external drive connected. It's got an old Tandy 2000 80 track drive, but I mean it must be 3 years since I've read an 80 track disc on the thing. So
Yeah, I'm
I
about
see
about
that
2
very
days. It's been about 2 days.
You've been no, that's cool. All right, thanks for that, Ira.
Thank
Good
you.
on you. Who's next? Well, Patrick. Hey, mate.
Hey guys. Well, a lot of you already know, Mav, you may not know, but I've been messing around with Michael M, and been working on the 80 floppy 80, a new device. I'm going to try to share my screen here for a second if you guys want to do this. How do I share screen? I don't do this very often, so bear with me for a sec. You guys see that or not?
Yes.
I can't see it. That makes my life a little harder. All right, so that's the screen. I'm going to move over here for a second. So I'll show the device afterwards for you, Ira. All right, so basically the device is, I'm going to start the computer without the SD card in it. And it's basically, will replace up to 4 floppy disk drives at a time. It supports now, with all this testing I've been doing, it supports DOS plus, LDOS, multi-DOS, new DOS, TRS-DOS, ZDOS, CPM 2.2 in Model 3 and Model 4 mode. And it comes in, I don't know if we, okay, here we go. So basically the device, for Ian that didn't see it, it just plugs directly. Sorry, I'm going to grab my tripod here. It plugs directly on the motherboard. So it bypasses completely the floppy disk drive controller. So it's floppy disk controller and floppy disk drive at the same time. Let me put that back on the front of the screen here. Basically, it runs off of an SD card and a Pi. So when I hit reset, this is the default init file. So the device has a config file that contains the data that tells them, and it's just a line that tells it which file is it supposed to read. And I'll show you the format in a second. And it boots off of that. So in this case, the command to see what's on it, that's what my init file looks like. So my init file is called LDOS 360 init. It does 180, it works with 360, it works with 720 boot disk and read write boot disk. The file format it accepts right now for read and write is DMK. Read only HFE. Michael is still working on getting that to work properly for writing. So basically that's how the init file, what's inside of it. So drive number and what image do I want on it. Now, thing to notice is that there's no spaces. If you use a space in your file name, you can have it in your init file, but when you go to do a manual load of the image, it gets complicated. It's just easier not to leave a blank. So the program that runs off of this is called FDC. It's a utility Michael derived from the Fred utility. So basically, you can select the init file that you want to run next. So I'm in LDOS, and I'll switch to CPM in a sec. The DMKs for temporary mounting of images, HFE images, or do an import of a file from the SD card. So let's say you had a Word document, somebody gave you a text file or whatever, you can import it kind of like the Fred image. You can import a file that's a command file or a text file or whatever, and it'll bring it into the commands, the drive you want to load it onto. So it's a small 2-3K application. So everything runs like a normal disk drive. So if I do a basic FDC INI, I want to change the operating system, and basically the INIs are listed of what I have. Each of these have the particular default drives, floppies I wanted to load. So I can load one floppy only, or I can load 4 floppies at a time by default. So if I have a preference for programming and I want LDOS with 4 blank disks, or hey, this is my programming disk, I don't have to manually load using the DMK function. I could preset them in advance. So for example, I want to select CPM from LDOS. I press 1. It's telling me that it's going to be the Montezuma. That's my image to boot, and the 2 attached drives that I decide to see. See, the 3rd will be blank. And it pauses. The system halts at this point because if you'd start doing something, it would be really screwed up because it's switching over operating system. So it requires a press to reset. You press the preset reset, and bam.
Nice.
You're in CPM. CPM also has the same function. So, and when I do STA, basically that's a status for what you have. It's repeating to me what images I'm using currently. So you can do loading images, let's say on disk drive 3, I say, oh, I forgot I got to load an image. You can give the name of the image directly here, but if you don't remember the name, like I'm useless at remember names, you can just simply type it like that. It'll list you the images that are on the SD card. So you can just select it. And if it's not on that one, you keep pressing enter. It'll accept up to 800 entries. So you can have a lot of images just sitting around on there. So I can go, you cannot load, let's say I've already loaded these 2 images. I cannot load another identical image because it's already active on one of the floppies, 1 floppy per. So there you go, all the ones I've got on there. And if it's not on there and I get to the end, it'll just come back to the end, get back to A, skips, or press break. So it supports a lot of operating system. It's all tested through me. We spent a lot of hours. It boots in 720 as well. There's a 720 disk, and it's instant. So it's all on an SD card. The structure of the SD card, I could show you that too. Give me a second. Get to my other camera. Is there any questions? Well,
That's on a Pico, right?
Yeah, it's a Pico.
Which is great because they're easier to get nowadays.
Yeah, it's not the one with Wi-Fi. I'm currently getting a Wi-Fi. There's these cards like this that are Wi-Fi cards where you can plug in an SD card inside of them, the small ones, the micro ones. And I ordered one. They're $15. And I'm going to, sorry, the background image is blocking. It's basically an SD card that I'm going to test to see if it works properly, which would permit you to do the updates, for example. Updating, it's real simple. You plug it into the USB cable, you hold the reset, it comes up as a window, you copy the file over, it reboots, you're done.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to it. Okay, you're still looking at that screen. Can I flip screens for a second? How do I do that?
The software you were saying that you use to select the image, and you said that if the image is already in use, you can't select it again. Maybe put like an asterisk beside ones that are currently in use when it lists it. That way, if you've already got, let's say 3, and you forget which ones you've already mounted, Perhaps if you put an asterisk beside the title of the disk image indicating that it's already been mounted per se.
Yeah, loaded next to the image that's loaded. Okay, good point. Thank you. I'll pass that on to Mike. Shouldn't be too hard to implement.
You can just put the drive number that it's mounted on.
Even better, the number, yeah.
Okay. See if that's possible.
Yeah.
I am zero in programming. I can pass information and troubleshoot and break things, but when it comes to programming, and
We
Yeah.
can only ask.
The
Craig,
FTC needs to be on one of the disks, right? Or does this device sort of seamlessly inject it?
sorry, I didn't get the whole question.
The FTC utility that you use,
Yep,
it needs to reside on one of the.
on the
disk
boot disk. Yeah, at least on the boot disk. Yeah. When I get the get these going out the door, there'll be a basic layout of all the operating systems with the FTC already loaded with them. So, you get people that buy stuff, they don't know where the images are. They're going to look for images. They don't know how to manipulate. I figured it'd be easier to just have an SD card that already has a basic layout. So LDOS 5, LDOS 6, new DOS. That way they actually have a set they can play with and make a copy of the SD card so they can't lose it. And they'll already have a copy of the FTC also separately so that they can have a backup of it.
Actually, it's you did some timings in Discord for formatting and those sorts of things, but it looks way quicker in normal operation. Have you done any timings in comparison?
I did both actually. I had some side by side in Discord. Might not have been spelled. I don't know if I was really clear about it, but I had quite a few tests done side by side. Where is my?
Because I saw the formatting ones, but it just in general operation, it appears lightningly fast.
It's much quicker on loading small programs because it just is. Formatting, it's very comparable. From formatted to a diskette or not from it, and I think that's just the operating system that just some of them do, like multi-DOS. It was very quick at formatting, but I think it just doesn't always verify the disk when it does it. But some of the programs I thought I had, I loaded a couple of programs, for example, and lightning fast. I don't know if lightning fast is a word I would use, but let's say take Apple Panic, which is a game from diskette. It's like close to 7.5 seconds. Floppy 80 was just barely under 6.5 seconds. So, I mean, lightning is not like it took 1 second. It's quicker. Yes.
That'd be all seek time, wouldn't it? And disk rotation and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Formatting, there's a copying. I did some backups. Where did I put that? Did some formatting and did some backups. Where's my, okay, to backup, for example, to do a diskette backup of a 720 disk, which is, I wanted to see how long the biggest floppy we can have on these machines, how long it would actually take, just to compare a little bit. A 720 floppy in the LDOS, for example, full backup. This is a floppy that has 5K left of empty space. So it's really a full disk. Takes 6.5 minutes. On floppy 80 takes little over five minutes. I mean, it's a full minute difference on a full disk backup. So it's pretty quick. I just think it can be useful for people that have either a lot of bad drives and they don't want to spend $150 to buy a floppy drive. People that will have a bad floppy disk drive controller, because those are getting hard to find as well. People that have a diskless system and they'd like to play a video game on it and not have to wait 4.5 minutes to load a game from a cassette.
Is this going to be adapted for the Model 1 at all, do you think?
So that question has come up like 25 times in the past on Discord, etc.
Right.
Michael is finishing up the touches on this. Once this is done, we'll discuss production. I'm probably going to support different ways of doing the production, that it be pre-assembled, unassembled as a kit, whatever. We have to figure, there's a lot of things to figure out for the final product. For the Model 1, he has purchased a Model 1, and that's the next step. He wants to adapt it to the keyboard. So it's going to be directly on the port that would normally go into the expansions and work the same way.
Cool.
This is for non-gate array only, right?
Currently, it's only for Model 3s and Model 4s non-gate array. I don't know if there's 4Ps that are gate array, non-gate array.
Yeah, there are.
There are?
There are, but they've got a built-in floppy controller already.
Ah.
It's not a plug-in one. But this device looks fantastic, Patrick. I'm
Yeah.
glad you guys are working on it. And for people who don't want the headache of actual discs themselves, I reckon this is going to be really popular. So yep.
I think it's got
for your demo.
I think it's got a lot of things that can be attractive to people to enjoy, that just don't want to mess with floppies anymore.
Cool. I hope it gets some traction.
For the Model 1, you're going to bypass the expansion interface?
You're asking the wrong man. I don't know.
Because
he wants to do it through the keyboard, he said.
Yeah, but if you do it through the keyboard, then you're sticking people with 16K. And
No. See, it's not okay. Let me rephrase the Model 1 premise. The Model 1 device is going to be 32K of RAM, or it's going to add. So it's going to push it to 48K. It's going to do the floppy disk controller, floppy disk drives, and it's going to, he mentioned it, though I'm not sure if he meant it or not. He said also a VGA output.
Does anybody know if he's going to also have to do the RTC?
Don't know.
For DOS, does anybody out there know if this is going to be necessary for the DOSes?
Yeah, you do.
All the DOSes work okay without a real time clock.
They do or they don't?
They do.
They do, but your time remains stuck.
Which for most people doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're all stuck in
Some of the DOSes actually do need the timer.
Sounds like on a Model 1, this will essentially replace, for the most part, the expansion interface.
And that's why I'm asking about the RTC. All well and good to kill the other stuff. You assume nobody wants to do a RS-232. You assume they don't also want to have an ORC or any of the other stuff. But the thing that jumped to my mind, obviously, was losing the RTC. Was that going to be a problem?
They might want to. Sorry, I just got the.
Go ahead, Vernon.
I was just saying a printer also.
Yeah, you lose the printer port as well. That's right. Yeah. It sounds a lot like a Model 1 system expander from Bartlett. Patrick, just maybe just check that. Make sure you guys aren't reinventing the wheel or something.
Well,
But,
it may not be like the one product that solves it all, but for a lot of people that just want to run games and software, I think it could be a good solution, right? Even on the Model 1.
Yeah. I mean, the combo box I sell, which has the Quinterface and the Fred built into the one box, has been very popular, and it's got the real time clock function, but it doesn't because it doesn't have the heartbeat of the real time clock from the expansion interface ticking away. It will pick up the time from the Fred each time you press reset, but the time won't advance while you're operating the computer. So, and most people, well, actually, I'll say everyone, because I've never had one complained about it, seem to have a problem of not being able to have up to the minute time, but it updates it each time you press the reset. It pulls the time off the real time clock on the Fred. But
I wonder how hard it would be to put like a patch in the OS to have it pull the time from the thread every time it wants to request the time, rather than trying to pull it, in advance. Just have it re-request it.
That's a piece of cake.
The word from a programmer, it's a piece of cake.
Well, yeah, a little patch for the OS if you're using it with that device would probably be, a nice little.
But all I have to know is, where do I get it?
Yeah. I will happily beta test.
Yeah.
Patrick, do you have a price point in mind?
It's not going to be expensive because the cost of the parts is not expensive at all. At this point, I have to talk to Michael. It's not, I didn't design it, so I don't get to make a price for it. It's he doesn't want to sell very expensive. That's all I know.
If you need someone
it's not in the $100 range at all.
If you need someone to help build them, I'd be more than happy to be a volunteer for that.
I will let him know.
Cool. All right. Thanks for that, Patrick. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, great news.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. Vernon. Hey, buddy.
Hello, I had to unmute. Sorry about that. I've gotten Fred, I think was it last month. After needing to work with the Model 3, I'm just finishing the software for the Model 1, and I plan to start testing the Model 1 tomorrow. I'll put it together. It's in pieces, and I'm going to power it up tomorrow, see what happens. If everything goes well, it shouldn't take more than a week to get the Model 1 going with Fred.
Well, that's good. Some of us spend more than a week just getting a Model 1 working. There so many heaps of junk out there, but sounds like you've got a good one. So
I have two Model 1s, so I can put together what pieces from one to the other to try to get something going.
they call that a Franken computer.
Okay.
Good on you, Vernon.
I've got a question for Vernon, if I can jump in real quick.
Go for it, Ira.
Vernon, I have never been able to get multi-DOS for the Model 3 to auto boot with the Model 3A ROM so that a 4P can boot the Model 3 multi-DOS. All the other DOSes do it. Can't figure out how to get multi-DOS to do it.
What won't it do?
It on all the other DOSes, and Patrick can definitely speak better than I can as to placement, but on all the other DOSes, either you can dump the Model A3 file onto them, or you have to do certain patches to get it to sit, within the certain few first directory entries. But if a Model 3 disk has the file in a correct location, a Model 4P can boot straight into it without having to load the ROM or be prompted to load the ROM. And multi-DOS is the only one I can't get to accept that combination. And Patrick can probably talk more about the specifics on where the file would have to be or any restrictions like that, maybe, shaking his head no.
It's just I have literally tried so many tricks that I know, even, to get all the other operating system, and multi-DOS is just one that I don't know what it wants.
Well, that's why I'm asking Vernon. I've tried too, and
that's why I was shaking my head.
I've tried too, and I can't do it either.
Yeah, okay. I suspect it's a piece of code that was put in that works with a regular Model 3 or a boot of a Model 4. When I use the TRS-80 GP emulator, write ROM, it wouldn't work. And I changed 1 byte and zip, it works. And it could be you need to change 1 byte. You want to know what byte it is to test?
Sure. You're saying that if I just toss it on there and I change this 1 byte, it'll magically start working?
Well, you have to zap the disk.
Yes, of course. But if I change this byte, that's all I need to do?
Right. Track 0, sector 1, byte 11 hex, change the 22 to a 21.
Track 0, Sector 1, byte 11 hex change 22 to 21.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to be on mute for a little while.
So,
Vernon,
so
that's incredible. I can't remember yesterday, never mind where that byte is on a disk.
I gotta go pull out my Model 4P from the closet.
So for people interested to know, historically, the 4P, when it was sold, it came with an additional disk called Model A/3 file, and that was the ROM image. And if you wanted to then load Model 3 TRS-80 1.3, you put this ROM image disk in first. It would load the ROM image, then you would eject it, put in the TRS-80 1.3 disk, press reset, and your Model 4P would run like a Model 3. So subsequently, people worked out how to copy that file from the file disk onto the boot disk of other operating systems like LDOS and NuDOS and DOS Plus, so that insert that disk in a Model 4P, it will do the ROM image install, and then after around 25 or 30 seconds, then boot the operating system without having to do that disk switcheroo business.
I never knew that. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No.
so that's what that disk on the Model 4P is for. So it goes back to when the 4P came out to enable you to run TRS-80 1.3 Model 3 mode on a Model 4. But yeah, most operating system developers found that if you integrate that file into your boot disk a certain way, change a byte or two, it would operate as it's supposed to. So, so that's where that file came from. So, just a little bit of education for you guys. All right.
I may have to look to see maybe it's getting pushed too far down. I just did all that, and it did not work. But maybe by adding a Model A3 to a fully stocked multi-DOS disk, it's too far in. So I'm going to play around a little bit.
Okay.
I'll let your people get in touch with Vernon's people, Ira.
A3 file. For sure.
Yes, I put on the Model A3 file. I went into Super Utility, found your byte 22, changed it to 21, and it did not work. It says ROM image required. So I'm wondering if it's got too many FDES in, because the ROM is only set, 4P ROM is only set to read a certain amount, and it's got to find that first. So perhaps if I back up to an empty disk and then drop it in.
Okay. Finicky,
Cool.
Model 4.
I'll leave you guys with it. You can give us an update next month, Ira and Vernon? Sure you will.
Sure. I have a couple 4Ps I can play with.
Awesome. No worries. Okay.
I suspect you'll get it to work a lot faster than I will.
We'll see. I just don't run the 3 on the 4P. I just run the Model 4 on the 4P. Sorry.
Well, if you don't mind looking into this, that would be awesome.
I will have a fix by next meeting.
Great. Good on you, mate. Okay. Timothy Halloran, how you going?
Very good, very good. I've been a little bit out of touch with the pandemic easing off. I've actually been playing a lot of musicals. I'm actually a guitarist as well, so it's been a busy spring. It seems weird after 2 years of nothing to be doing that, but it sounds like I need to catch up with Vernon. He's made great progress, and definitely, Vernon, reach out if you have any trouble getting Model 1s going. I can definitely help with that. I can fix those. I've gotten lots of help from Mav over the years of how to troubleshoot problems in those things. But the only thing I've really done is I've switched out a couple Model 1s. There's a great article by Matt Boytim in the December issue of TRS 8-bit about switching out the ROM with a single 27256 EEPROM, and I've done that on several of my Model 1s. It makes them much easier to mess around with, because all of the little daughter board things that Tandy attached to upgrade the ROM, you can just take all of that out and fix one trace cut, and you sort of have the board. So it's really nice, and you can have the updated whatever it is, 1.3 ROM or whatever, and it all just sort of works. But it's a great job by Matt figuring this out. Like, how he figured this out. Good for him. Good for him. And but it's been I've done several of them, and just makes it much easier to work on the Model 1s, to not have all those little cards. But hopefully getting back into it next month, I'll have more to report.
That's awesome. All right then. Thanks for that, Timothy. Just going back to Peter, any news on Tandy Assembly? How's that coming along?
Well, I finally updated the website, so
I noticed.
Yeah, it's happening September 30th to October 2nd this year. So we're open for speakers, for exhibitors, for tech track teachers, for sponsors, for attendees. Get to the website tandyassembly.com. And
When will you know about the hotels, the hotel?
I will know the next time I meet with the Tandy Assembly Board. Within the next month, we should know.
Okay.
Info for you.
I'll do some speaking. The trouble is, last time I did, everyone just ended up laughing at my accent and not taking anything in. So, you know.
I want to bring my camper, but I don't think the hotel would let me park my camper in their parking lot.
Yeah, park it in the museum.
Parking lot.
Some hotels do.
Yeah, I've got to find out about that. Maybe they will.
As long as somebody is like, let's say you bring 3 people in the camper, as long as one of them stays at the hotel, then they'll allow you to, at least I think that was the case with VCF Midwest at the center there. Because I was going to drive with a friend in his Winnebago to VCF Midwest just before the whole COVID thing. And they said, yeah, it's okay to.
I'm going to find out. After all, I am
right?
running the show. It's, so I'm bringing a lot of business to them. Maybe
that's right.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile.
Just say you're keeping your equipment in it. And so you're using it to transport your equipment, and you may as well stay in it, right? You're hosting the event, so that might be worth something.
Cool. Thanks, Peter. Walter, how you going, mate?
Good. How are you? Long time no see.
Yeah, I know. We had a few beers in Toronto a couple of weeks ago. That was
it was good to see you.
Yeah.
And actually, that inspired me to work on my TRS-80 Model 4. I pulled it off the shelf, only to find that a lot of the keys has stopped working again, despite the fact that I had taken them all apart, all 5 pieces for each key, cleaned them, put it all back together. And then sure enough, 3 years later, I'll have to do the same thing again. So,
yeah, they just hate us, those keyboards, don't they? They just
Now, last time I cleaned them, I didn't coat them with deoxit or anything. So I think this time after I clean them, I'll coat them with something. So hopefully it'll prevent them from tarnishing.
Well, people, you'll have to look around the Discord or the forums or something, but people have had success repainting the dome.
Oh, I have the paint actually. So maybe
the conductive paint. Maybe use more of it.
Yeah. Well, last time I didn't use the paint at all. I just cleaned them. But this time I'll actually.
Yeah, I've never used the paint, but I've always had an abundance of keyboards here. So if the domes don't clean up properly with a Q-tip, then I just move on to the next one. And
which paint are you using? Because I didn't get to see that paint. I'm curious.
I got it on Amazon. I think it was like $27.
Can you put it in the chat so I can get the information?
Yeah, if you let him talk, then you'll be able to see it.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. I guess or either that, or you can show. What is it called? Showcase me or showcase my camera or whatever. But yeah, either way, I'll look through my my Amazon purchases and put the link in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of keyboards, we were chatting the other day about there was somebody on eBay offering a keyboard rebuild service now for TRS-80s. Is that somebody that's here in this chat? Yeah. So
I can't see it being cheap. I mean, I haven't seen it on eBay, but geez, it would take me, and I'm pretty good at it, like 4 hours to do a keyboard minimum.
Yeah, for each one, and each key consists of 5 parts, and it's a huge pain in the ass.
It is. Yes, I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how much they would charge though. I mean, I suspect it'd be pretty expensive.
It was $100, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an guy on eBay that does it for $100.
I think one of the biggest pain is getting the at least in the case of the Model 4 is getting the case off without trashing the tube.
We're there. I was going to say we've pretty much worked that out now, but I mean, every 6 months I hear from someone who's managed to not do that properly and bust the tube. So
yeah, I've watched a video, and I think it was your video actually. You know, you sort of have to look through the disk.
If you look through the top floppy drive, you're pretty much going to be okay. But if you've got a diskless computer and you can't look through the floppy drive, you've got to really
be careful
as you do it.
Yeah.
I've done it with this one, and
Just lift it until if you feel resistance, then don't go any further.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Better to just sort of go slowly rather than assume that it's not going to snag on anything and lift it off with much gusto.
The biggest challenge are the single disk computers because you got the blank panel in the top drive.
Right.
Still got to maneuver the case around that bottom drive.
Yeah. Radio Shack did a pretty good job of the wires at the top behind the CRT, using cable ties and things to sort of manage them out of the way where they won't snag the tube. However, if people have cut those cable ties or otherwise modified the computers over 40 years, they can hang down in an area where the picture tube will catch them. But so
it's usually the video cable is the one that gives it the problem. If it's not tied to the chassis, that's the problem I've seen. That's where it gets snagged. So I make sure I put a little tie around that onto the chassis, and it keeps it clear away.
Yeah, exactly.
I've also had a few acquisitions. I don't know how interesting these might be to the TRS-80 crowd, but I got an Oric 1.
Nice.
Pretty cool. And Oric Atmos in the box, which is also pretty cool. I've got to try these out. These are, oddly enough, 6502 based computers. And I also got a CPC 464, which is Z80 based. That's a little more relevant, I guess. That's it for me.
Cool. Thanks for that, Walter. Let's see who's next. Dusty. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Nice to apologise for being late, as per usual. Yeah, things have moved along. I've had an email from George, and I was looking at the competition. I think we've got the website organised for you, George, haven't I? So you can download everything. Yeah, and I thought, well, I'll have a quick look at the sort of 12,000 odd words. And I thought the first thing I'll do is I'll put them all into uppercase, which is quite straightforward, and then sort them. And I've just been really playing around with that. But when you sent me the email, George, you sent me a little picture, a little program rather, that draws rectangles. And it took me right back to years ago, because it looks like one of those optical illusions where if you look at it, print it out and look at it, it's either a pyramid looking up at you or it's a long tunnel going down, which is quite, and that sort of got my mind thinking. And there was a young ago, in the early 1980s, there was a game called Cram, and it did something on very similar lines to your little program. It draws a box around the outside of the screen and then starts to move across from left to right a line, and you have to hit a key before it touches the right hand corner, and it will turn the direction of this line 90 degrees to the right, and the same, avoid the hitting the bottom. And I was chatting to emailing ET about it, and we managed to find the original program. And he's he's trying to get it down to one line, but he's been spectacularly unsuccessful on this occasion. But we got it down to about 4 or 5 lines, I think it was. But it's quite a silly little game, and it's quite addictive. So there'll be an article about it in TRS-80 that come June. But as I say, really, that's my whole sort of setup now revolves around TRS-80 GP. But all quiet on the Western Front, I would say, Mal.
Oh, well, that's good.
Can I just say hello to Tim Mann? We've never met, but it's so lovely to see him. It's the first time I've actually seen him face to face. I like reading your annual reports of what you've been up to, Tim.
Yeah. So I've been, I don't know, well, just lately I got interested in another retro computing thing, not exactly TRS-80, but I've been adding some features to CW to DMK. And the reason for it is kind of interesting. There's a guy named Rüdiger Kurth, I forget his last name, but he's from former East Germany, and he's interested in preserving these obscure computers that were built in East Germany behind the Iron Curtain, and nobody else in the world really knows anything about them. And one of the properties of these computers is that they used a discrete logic floppy disk controller. They didn't use, one of the chips that's like the 1771 or whatever. And they tried to do like a almost IBM compatible format, but it's not exactly IBM compatible. And all the different, it seems like there are like at least 5 different variants of the format, none of which CW to DMK could read because they were not, they weren't standard. But they were close enough that by putting some Quark support in, if you give the right command line option, it will be able to read them now. And then that kind of expanded to doing more things with it. I don't know, I could talk about what the quirks are if anyone's at all interested in floppy disk formats, but I guess.
Yeah, go for it, Tim.
Okay, so one thing that's common to all of these OS is I think they're based off, I think he said they're based off something that Zilog issued at one point, and then the different people modified it in different ways. But they all have this property that at least some sectors have 4 extra bytes at the end that they're like to support like a linked list, I think, so that you can recover files, or maybe you even need them to figure out what the next sector in the file is at any time. And the way that they've done this varies a lot. So there's I don't know historically what the order is, and probably the order in which I add quirks for them might even be totally backwards. But one version is that after the 2 CRC bytes, then there are 4 more bytes and then another 2 CRC bytes. There's another version which seems to have the 4 extra bytes, but they didn't bother putting a CRC on them. There's just a write splice at the end. And then there's a version where, let's see, and okay, and the third version is that the 4 bytes are part of the sector data. So like it's, instead of, if the size code says this is 128 byte sector, it's actually 132 byte sector with 2 CRC bytes after. And then so they had some other quirks too sometimes where they would do like little detail things wrong, like the like for instance, double density, you're supposed to have like 3 bytes with a missing clock in a certain place before the address mark. And sometimes not all, like the third one wouldn't be missing the clock, or the first one would be missing the clock, I forget which. So I had to put like quirk support in there too, or I wouldn't detect the address marks. So that's been kind of fun. And then another thing that this led to is, I mean, a feature that was always missing from CW to DMK was to capture the data once and then try decoding it in various different ways instead of having to read the disk over and over. So partly inspired by something Quentin said, which was actually not what he did. It was like the opposite of what he did. I wrote some kludgy code where if you run with level 7 logging, which logs everything, but it's in ASCII human readable format, now you can replay the decoding of the disk from the log. And you can use, you can use different options, or you can modify the program and to add more decoder features and then try again. So that's been kind of fun to play with. And
it's like a database transaction log.
yeah, not much like a database transaction log. It's just like we just write down everything we did. So we write down all the samples that we read. We write down what we decoded them to. We have little messages in brackets that say what errors we found or what was strange, and etc. And the format was not really designed to be machine readable, but it was sort of designed to be unambiguous, and it turns out that it actually is machine readable. It's really verbose, so I wouldn't recommend this as an interchange format, and I still would want to add a feature, you know, to write to something more standard, if there's something fairly industry standard for saving samples from a device like the Cat Weasel. I'd like to be able to read and write that format, and then maybe eventually work with other hardware, since Cat Weasels aren't made anymore. But then on the other hand, is this worthwhile? Because people have been doing a lot of stuff in the 10 years or so since I really actively worked on this, and maybe it's all kind of, maybe what I've done is, what I have is all pretty much superseded. I'm not sure. I don't think it's all superseded. So maybe there's some other project that would make more sense to contribute to instead of hacking on this one some more. I don't know. But it's been fun.
A lot of people feel the Cat Weasel is still the most superior disk imaging tool.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The Cat Weasel hardware, I believe, is still considered probably the most superior.
Huh, okay.
Did you hear it?
I know people are building new stuff. So there's something called Grease Weasel, and I don't know what else there is.
It's my feeling that if the people that made the Cat Weasel back in the day went and did another production run, it would sell out in no time. To me, as a business person, that would be a no-brainer. You know, even adjusted for inflation, it would probably sell like hotcakes. But they have their own reason for not doing another run of them, I suppose.
Yeah, Tim, the one of the strengths of the Cat Weasel, as you wrote it, is the immediate determination as to whether or not a read is good or bad. And most, I say most because it's possible that the applesauce doesn't fail in this respect, although the applesauce is available only for the 5% of the market that is the Apple. Don't do that. And so you can read something 50 times and just get 50 bad reads and a 7 GB disk image, as opposed to how you wrote it, which is it knows it's bad, it tries again, keep one.
Yeah, and I have to thank George, by the way, for adding the feature that merges good sectors from multiple reads. That's a cool feature. Although it's giving me headaches when I try to modify the code, because my code was kind of spaghetti to begin with. I know there's a lot of code shoved in there.
Well, I think Quentin's trying to bring order to madness on that, but I can tell you that I am an extremely heavy user of your software, as first modified by George. Thank you again, George. As further modified by Quentin. Thank you, Quentin. And it's working perfectly. It may not be great to try to add code to, but the rejoining of rejoining and all of these other tricks that have been later added really do save the day.
Yeah. It would be nice to work with some hardware that people are still making, though. And I don't know the details of these things, but the hardware details of these things, but something like the Grease Weasel or other things that you can still get have the similar enough features that should be possible to make the software work with them. Just takes programming.
I've got the CryoFlux these days, and I used to use, I used to use the Cat Weasel back when I had ISA slots available, and to be honest, it's the new one's not an improvement. In particular, mixed density TRS-80 disks are just not handled well by anything else. Cat Weasel does the best job by far. When you've got those dual boot.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to separate what the hardware does versus what the software does, right? And if the hardware is as capable as the Cat Weasel hardware, then it should be possible to port the software.
Regarding that logging format being not suitable because of its verbosity, you could always just stick stick a compression on top of it.
Oh, sure.
That way. Yeah, and that'll probably compress because it's all text. It'll probably compress extremely well.
It would. It's doable that way. I was just hoping that there's something like there's some format out there that someone's already designed that's open and that everyone who builds a hardware like this and software like this could use. But I don't know if there is.
I don't know how suitable the HFE format would be for that. I know that it has a lot of low-level information in it.
Yeah, I don't know it. I just have to go back and start figuring out what's going on in that community because I've been kind of ignoring it for 10 years or more. I know a lot has happened. I'm on the shoot, what is that mailing list called? I don't know. I'm on one of the other mailing lists for Classic Comp. I'm on the Classic Comp mailing list, but I think I have like 10 years of digest that I haven't read. So they're sitting there in my email waiting for me to look through them and see what people have been saying about disk capture.
Well, Quentin might have been looking into whether or not he can do the DMK software abilities that are in there on the Grease Weasel.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to talk to him about that.
Yeah, the author of the Grease Weasel software, who also does the hardware, has made some nice changes in the last year and a half that make it much easier to do the retries now. But all I have to do is teach it the formats. One of the struggle points with it, though, that he's working on is it doesn't handle flexible formats. So it can't handle a disk right now that's double density and single density on different tracks. So that's something that has to be grown. But I'd also there's adding the recognition of the various TRS-80 disks to the Grease Weasel software, as well as adding the DMK read-write format to it. So those are two mostly separate tasks.
Well, I've only found, and we discussed this earlier before you got on, Tim, but one of the strengths of the Cat Weasel in the software was I can put in a disk blind. If I have a 5-sector track 0 and then 10 sector tracks 1 and 2 and so on and forth, it's going to read it. Or if the next disk I throw in there happens to be 80 track double-sided double density, it's going to read it because I certainly don't know what's on the disk sent to me. I think to date that we have only found one disk that CW to DMK could not do, and that was the PFS file for the Model 3.
Interesting. I actually like to know more about that one, maybe offline.
All right. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us. Good to see you for the first time. Hope you're going to come along to subsequent live podcasts if possible.
Yeah, I always forget that it's happening. And then I go to YouTube and say, oh, they put up another Trash Talk, and I wasn't there. But
that's happened to me from time to time. I've forgotten it's on, and I run the thing. So it's funny when that happens.
You're always welcome, Tim.
Good on you, mate.
Do you have a mailing list that you send reminders out to with a Zoom link or something?
I do. I'll add your email to that mailing list.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Next. All right. So we're about 1 hour and 20 minutes into it. So we've got about 40 minutes to go. Anyone got anything that they wanted to demo or were determined to get some airtime in, or otherwise I'll just keep going person by person?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the contest.
Go for it, George.
Yeah, as Dusty said, the TRS 8-bit is having its annual competition, programming competition with fabulous prizes provided by Ian. And there's actually I'm going to post a link to the contest page, and I'll share it on the screen here and talk about it a bit. Yeah, so you can see hopefully you can see the competition page up there on screen.
Yep.
So I mean, there's two parts to this year's competition. You can enter in one or both if you like. One side of it is just simply make a clone of Wordle, the pretty popular 5-letter guessing game.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And the idea is to do it on whatever thing you've got that has TRS-80 printed on the side of it. Make it pretty and beautiful. It doesn't have to support the full word list or all the features. We're just kind of looking at a nice implementation of it. Then the second part of the contest is to instead implement just some very sort of core features of Wordle. And the one difficulty is that there's some 12,000 words in the list. So when you enter a word that you guess, it has to come back and say, hey, is that a valid 5-letter word or not? And as you can imagine, if you take 5 letters times 12,000, you run out of memory on most of your TRS-80s immediately. Now there's a trick you can do to get that down to about 38K. But then the question posed by the contest and what we're looking for is basically take that word list, compress it down as much as possible, and then provide a couple of little functions to access it. So there's really 2 things that Wordle needs in this case. One is that there's a subset of the words that can be ones that are supposed to be guessed. So you need to write a function which says, out of the few thousand subset of the words that can be made as guesses for that the user has to guess at, get one of those words out of the list. The other subroutine is just say, here's a word. Is this a valid word? Is this word in the dictionary or not? And so the judging of it is solely on looking at this as an in-memory program, the size of your code plus the size of your compressed data, who can get that figure to be the smallest. And so this is your big chance to show the superiority of your favorite processor or a particular TRS-80.
I'd be inclined to put the 12,000 word database into a simple comma separated file on the disk and access it that way.
You can do that for the first part of the competition for sure. But for the second part is more of a sort of just a slightly artificial technical challenge.
Yeah.
It'd actually be pretty easy for a Coco 3 with 512K, I think.
Well, it still does a print mem of about 28,000. So
George,
with
do we have
bit of bank switching, probably do it okay.
Do we have to compete against George and Peter Phillips?
You won't compete against me because I'm not allowed to enter.
Good.
And in fact, if you look at the competition page, there's a contest.zip download which goes into some detail about how Wordle works and gives you the word lists that you're supposed to use for the technical side of the competition. And I also wrote a sample program which demonstrates how to compress the dictionary down to about 38K by doing it base 26. So you get a bit of a head start there.
So,
it
yeah,
does suck
512.
you in that game. I've been playing online believe it or not, a Taylor Swift variation of Wordle, and it has words up to 8 letters long. So they can be quite interesting, not having just the regular 12,000 5-letter words. But yeah.
Have you played Quordle, Mav?
I have not heard of that one yet, but I'll probably
Google Quordle. That's for the hardcore people. So it's like ordinary Wordle, but there are 4 that interrelate. It's mind-numbing. It's really very good.
Can you try octordle and hexadecordle? And
So
then there's polyordle that lets you say how many you want, like up to thousands, but it gets really slow. I tried 128, or I tried 256, and it was way too slow.
So, yeah, with the data already given a compression algorithm, they'll compress it down to 38K. Like I said, a 512K Coco 3, that should be easily able to fit an access routine and the 38K of data into a 64K task bank. Which can then go in, call it.
Oh, for sure, it'll fit. But actually, the key part of the contest is to come up with the smallest possible thing. So, that's what it's judged on.
We're shooting for like 4K Model 1s, huh?
No. But I think actually, I think it's possible to compress the dictionary down enough so that into say the 14K range or so, such that you could imagine this actually being able to load it on from tape into your 16K Model 1. And if someone can do that, well, we would praise that highly at the very least.
Having said that, I want to see Barry's 512K Coco 3 version. Remember, the other thing that's worth noting about our competition is that we only have one entrant, then you automatically win. So it's worthwhile programming something and submitting it on the off chance that you're the only entrant.
Yeah, and that could be Beauty and the Beast, because you could have an efficient machine code routine in 64K bank with a 38K compressed data, and then a front end that interfaces with that has a very nice user interface, because you got plenty of memory left to do all kinds of other stuff.
So you got it all worked out already. Just make it so, Barry.
Sounds like it'd be an easy swap to make it on the Model 4 with 120K and put it on a mem drive.
You could do as well. Yep. Okay, moving right along. Jay.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, man.
Nothing really to report. So just making those power supplies. That's about it.
Yep, you're thawing out there in Maryland?
Yeah, well, we never really had much snow. It's just we've been going back from high temperatures to low temperatures to high temperatures to low temperatures. It's crazy. It's just, but now it seems to be more spring-like now.
Oh, cool. You looking forward to Tandy Assembly?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
Yep, me too. I've got about, this much of paperwork to get out of the country and then twice as much to get back in. But
is Australia letting everything let free now? You can travel wherever you want to
yeah, we are allowed, but they've made a lot of hoops for us to jump over at the moment. Hopefully that'll have been sorted by September. I went to Canada recently. I had to do a lot of tests at various days during my visit there, and to come back to Australia, which was really annoying, but I know the procedure now. So,
well, hey,
you came out. We don't care anymore. Just you can come in. You don't need testing.
Yeah,
hey, you guys have kangaroos, so you should be able to get one of them to help with the jumping through hoops part.
I know.
I just want to say one other thing. Sean, are you still there?
Hello.
I'm still investigating the package. In case most people don't know, I sent Sean ordered 3 power supplies for me and some pocket TS badges, I think, and we shipped them off. And weeks went by, months went by, and he never got the package. He was questioning me, and I've been going to the post office. Post office says contact PayPal. PayPal says contact ShipStation. ShipStation says contact Global Shipping. And we still haven't resolved it. But so in the meantime, I rebuilt the stuff and I sent it to him, and hallelujah, he got them. And but I'm going up to New Jersey next week. I'm actually going to go to the distribution post office, and I'm going to make a scene there. I'll maybe get arrested, but I'm going to make a scene because that package is sitting somewhere in that building.
Absolutely.
File a claim and
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I've had
so anybody who uses PayPal to ship to out of country, be careful, because I don't know what ShipStation or a Global Post, I don't know what's going on, but when I took that second package right to the post office and I directly sent it, with the customs form and everything, as you can see, Sean finally got that package, but the other one must be going through some kind of like a secondary district, like eBay uses, I guess, for checking, for contraband or whatever. I don't know. So be careful. But we did resolve the problem, and I'm glad to finally see you. So but that was it's a nightmare. So
Hey,
Jay,
that warehouse from Indiana Jones, Ark of the Covenant. That's where your package is.
That's probably where it is.
Jay, I've had that problem with shipping stuff to Turkey in the UK, and the stuff would just float around indefinitely. And I'll tell you what, once you get past those 30 days, file a complaint And
With
it's
who?
suddenly, and with the post office.
Oh, the
suddenly-
post office. Okay, that's what
Suddenly, poof, my stuff. Oh, we've got a new tracking. They found it. Suddenly, all of a sudden, they found it.
Yeah, well, that's what I did. I went to the post office, said I want to file a claim. They told me to call PayPal. So I'm going to make a case. Don't worry. I mean, I've written the product off. You know, it's whatever it is. But you know, I'm still going to see if I can get anything out of it. You know.
Absolutely.
I'll be keen to see if transit times from Australia to the US are improved, Jay, because I'm sending you something on Monday tomorrow. So let me know the moment it arrives, and we'll see if it's come down from 3 to 4 weeks.
Because the package I sent to Sean didn't take that long, did it?
Oh no, it was about a week and a half or something.
It was the only when I was because I sent Sean the tracking information so he could follow along, and the longest station I noticed was it said was in Japan.
Yeah,
and that was for about maybe 4 or 5 days, and then after that it was in Australia. Then it hit Melbourne, and then you got it. So I don't know. I just don't know what's going on. What's interesting is Global Post sent me an email. They wanted a copy of the original invoice for that package because I guess for customs purposes or whatever. I shipped it all. I sent them an email. They received it. They said they got it. And that's when all hell broke loose, and the package never got there. Somebody must have opened it, saw what it was, and kept it. I don't know.
Was it insured? Can you insure through this?
It was insured. Yeah, it's insured. So I'll if I have to, like I say, file a claim with the post office, I will.
Open a claim. When you open the claim, you know that the insurance people and the post office, they don't like to pay out money. So you open an insurance claim, all of a sudden, oh my gosh,
they found it.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
Hey, Ian, the thing you sent me most recently only took 19 days.
Okay, all right. I've noted. I haven't noticed, but the general feeling is that things seem to be getting to the US quicker now that the borders have opened up with Australia. So there's more regular flights between Australia and the United States, particularly LAX. So things are getting there.
Well, the only thing that could go wrong is if Russia invades Australia.
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them for
Yeah, I know, right?
The kangaroos would take care of them.
And
the kangaroos will kick them out.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Good
No
to talk
problem.
to you. Sean.
Yeah.
You're new here, first time?
It is indeed.
How you go, mate?
Doing all right. Yeah, look, I've been hacking away. People may have been noticing I've been pumping out some software for playing larger scale adventure games on the Model 4. So getting some of the newer Infocom games to actually run on a Model 4, using all 128K of its glory, because it turns out that those games are quite large, and you need that kind of memory, but not for all of them. So when Ira pointed out quite rightly that this allowed you to play some of those Scott Adams adventures that had been ported to the same format. As it is, you can play probably around 400 odd adventure games. If you have a look through the Interactive Fiction Archive, people have written a whole swag of games that work in that same format. So I had a look at, seeing if I could get the Model 3 to get some of the action. And if people have got a second for a little bit of a demo, I might even be able to crack that on with the Model 3, getting some of our little games. Let's see if I can share it. As you'll see, I had a few memory leak issues. If you have a look at the date, that's quite a fun little date. I didn't even know you could get the 87th of July, but there you go.
Wow, that's
yeah.
What I like is
submit a bug.
What I like is the 1967.
Well, look, if they're going to make daylight savings times universal in the United States, I guess we're going to have July 87.
So hopefully this thing will spin up one of the later Scott Adams adventures, because demoing live is always fun, right? There we go. So this is one of the original. It was graphics on the Commodore 64, but got converted to a text-based only format. So I can hit start the game, and off you go, playing one of the original Scott Adams on a Model 3. So yeah, it does exactly what you would expect it to. It all works. The screen seems mostly working. I ironed out most of the display bugs on the Model 4 version. So converting it down was about 20 hours worth of effort. But yeah, just to map out all the different bits and pieces, slice it up, different screen size. A lot of the video drivers don't work. They're both running on, well, LDOS and LSDOS, but there's an awful lot that's not the same between them. But yeah, there's a bunch of games that will work. There's a lot of games that won't, though. Mainly because it doesn't have enough memory. So what it'll do is the game files have multiple areas inside them. So they've got a dynamic memory, and then a static memory, and then a high memory. So the larger ones can be up to 256, 512K, quite large. But the dynamic memory is the first chunk of the game, and obviously that's what you want inside your RAM. You don't want to be swapping that out to a disk, because it would take a month of Sundays to even have a turn. So as much as possible is in memory that's dynamic. Now, some of the earlier games like Zork, like the first ever Zork that came up, that was about 12K worth of dynamic memory. Some of the later games that became rather large and epic, like Trinity, that one's got about, I think it's like 30 odd K of dynamic memory. So not enough to actually load that and your player and have a stack, because you need a stack to play the game as well. Under the hood, it's actually running it's actually basically a Lisp interpreter. So all of these games are essentially running on a Lisp engine, and that needs at least 2K of space for the stack, plus an extra additional local stack that it uses, and then you've got your Z80 stack on top of that. So there's a lot of juggling. I've also put in a disk cache, so it's not thrashing your drive with every turn. Again, thanks Ira for that observation. Anyway, that's what's been keeping me busy.
Nice.
Thank you for doing this. Just even the thought of being able to take some of the Scott Adams stuff that had never been run on the TRS-80 and run it is just fantastic.
Yep.
And it just shows people always coming up with things to do that with these machines that were probably never thought of or envisaged. So nice work, Sean. Keep it up.
Hopefully time for a lost treasures of Infocom for the TRS-80.
Yep,
indeed.
Hopefully you can join us on here regularly, Sean.
Indeed, hopefully.
Awesome. All right, so we've got about 20 minutes to go. Quinnan, you got anything?
Yeah, a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, I went to an estate auction where I picked up a TRS-80, Model 1, a monitor, and a line printer 2. The estate was of a doctor, which he also had a bunch of other computers. He had an Atari, an Apple II, Apple II GS, Macintoshes, some PCs. It was kind of unusual. I went through his TRS-80 stuff. One curious thing I ran across was he had newsletters and marketing material for a company called Windham Software. The company made TRS-80 office software for doctors and dentists. I didn't see any Windham TRS-80 software ever archived anywhere. So I even bounced it off of Ira, and he didn't have anything. So I go ahead. I'm planning on scanning the Windham newsletters and marketing material and passing them along to Ira, so at least those can get archived. I did pick up a what?
Very specialized business software.
Yeah,
I have seen it when I was back many decades ago when I was working as a computer consultant, and I worked for for a few doctors and doctors' offices, etc. So
yeah, from the marketing and newsletter materials, it seems rather interesting software for office management and accounting and such, and patient billing, that sort of thing. I did pick up a box of diskettes that looked like it was for the TRS-80, but I haven't spun them up yet. What's odd is he didn't have floppy drives or even expansion interface for his TRS-80. So it's unclear why he would have TRS-80 disks. The disks had, it was just one collection of disks. One was labeled 48K System Recall System that seemed to be a master, and several other disks labeled 48K System Slave SFH FPC, each with a different doctor's name on them. I sent photos to Ira and he hadn't seen anything like them. So I'm really curious to see what's on them when I spin them up. But at the auction, I caught a nasty respiratory virus that didn't test as COVID, but it slowed me down for the last week and a half. That's why I hadn't made any progress since then. So I'm really curious to, okay, so at least we know one person's even heard of Windham software in this group. I was curious if anyone had any idea what those discs, what the labels on the discs meant, or had heard about the Windham software.
The disc, Quentin, the diskettes you were talking about, are they 5 1/4 discs or 8-inch discs?
Oh, they're regular 5 1/4. They, like I said, with the 48K on them, they look like they were kind of TRS-80 like for the Model 1 or 3 or 4.
I know that they had some doctors. I have seen them in Canada. I repaired a computer back in the 80s, and I remember seeing that software, but the doctor was running it off of a Model 12 and had 3 Model 3s or Model 4s in the doctor's offices. So I don't know if that's maybe the kind of setup he had and you just came in where the Model 12 was gone already.
Yeah, because the Windham software was for the Model 2 and 12, at least in the newsletters I have, as well as the 1, 3s, and 4s.
So Patrick, are you thinking that this was a networked system?
It's possible. I mean, you could use the Model 3 terminal with a Model 12, with Model 2, Model 12. You could do it. I mean, RS-232 wise. I mean,
but then why have the discs? Those discs aren't going to go into a Model 12.
Well, the disc might not be relevant to whatever, or I don't know. That part I don't know. But if he had a diskless system, terminal comes to mind right away, because the doctor wouldn't be using a diskless cassette player to print labels and do management. That would be have to be done differently.
What I think is interesting, though, to take away from this is there's probably all sorts of industry-specific software out there that the general public probably wasn't aware of, but all the doctors or dentists all communicate with each other, and you'd have software specific to those guys that they all knew about or tried out, or some of them utilized. So
Windham actually sold them in packages. They would actually be a reseller of the hardware and the software at the same time. They sell those as packages,
an early turnkey solution or something.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that would have software like that would be industry specific. Lawyers had a lot of stuff that they had that's industry specific.
What would be interesting to check is in old volumes of the Tandy software source book, the book you used to be able to buy from Tandy, if they're mentioned in there, Quinton, because they're a catalog of a lot of software that's industry specific that you would never see advertisements in 80 Micro or other places for them. So it might be a mention of them in there. It's worth looking at.
Being here in the Midwest of the United States, I did see a lot of ag software that was for the TRS-80 go by in the local publications.
Here in Australia, they were for a time popular out in the rural areas for agricultural management and things like that. But finding copies of software these days for those things are incredibly difficult. I've got a few ag titles that I bought on eBay in the United States, but I rarely see them anymore, and which is a shame, because some of that stuff could be quite interesting and definitely worth archiving.
Yeah, I keep my eye on the various auction and estate sales that go by in my area, just hoping that some family dumping an old farmer's house is they'll pop up on there.
Look for those old Cocos that were for the setup for the Ag and Via and Vitex.
Yeah.
Those are really rare to find.
Cool. Thanks for that,
Another,
Quentin.
another example of the importance and relevance of the TRS-80 in the history of computing.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe
All right.
next month I'll talk about what I found on those floppy disks.
Yeah, we look forward to it. That'll be great.
Yeah.
All right, 15 minutes to go. Craig Buchanan, howdy.
Howdy. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep. Can.
All right. Yeah, not a great deal to report this month, other than sending a bunch of 80-track diskettes to IRA. There was that. And I've ordered a bunch of caps to recap I think most of my floppy drives, so that's on the to-do list. But and more stuff, and I need to package up another. As soon as I sent off discs to be read, of course I found more. So I've got more to bundle up. Well, that's about it.
How it always works.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can I get something in here real quick?
Go for it, Barry.
So I don't know if we have any other MAME devs on this call, but I just wanted to briefly touch on that. I guess we probably got a couple. So TRS-80 Model 4 emulation on MAME. Has there been any? I've tried to struggle with it for getting a Model 4 to boot on MAME in Model 4 mode. And so far I've been unsuccessful in getting it to boot and read the disk. Do we have anybody who's working on that besides my pointless, endless struggling? And what's been done on that? Anything?
I don't think anybody here works on MAME. I recently tried it myself, but I didn't try the Model 4.
The TRS-80 Model 1 and 3 will work. The Model 4 will boot in Model 3 mode, at least with recent versions of MAME. But the Model 4, I cannot get the damn thing to boot, and I haven't located or managed to figure out exactly where the problem is yet. So, I mean, if anybody's got any insight, maybe onto the model, we've got so many people here that are familiar with the hardware and the disk interface. Maybe somebody could give me some pointers as to, what might be the issue why the Model 4 wouldn't boot, or it will boot in Model 3 mode, but not in Model 4 mode.
Sounds like you need an emulation specialist like a Phillips.
There's so many good emulator solutions now for the TRS-80 that's probably why there's not much effort.
Well, there's effort. I'm putting in the effort, and I have TRS-80 GP, which is good. But the thing about TRS-80 GP only emulates the TRS-80 models, and I find MAME very useful because it emulates not only the TRS-80 and not just the TRS-80 Z80, Z80, but it also does a bunch of other machines, Apple, Atari, etc., and the color computer, which is 6809 based, and so it's sort of if we get this working, sort of have all the and the Model 2 and 16, etc., all work on MAME, and they boot.
That's really good.
So if we could get the damn TRS-80 Model 4 to boot in Model 4 mode, you'd have one emulator that would cover almost all of the TRS-80 line. So it's the one key piece that's sort of missing. So
yeah, MAME is a great concept. I looked at MAME way back when I was early working on extras, and I decided, it wasn't ready for prime time. I mean, trying to add all the stuff extras had to would have been really hard. But I'm sure a lot of progress has been made since then, because that was long ago.
Oh yeah, a lot of progress has been made. I have a structured release copy of it. My currently version is 224B for Barry Nelson. So what I do there is, because MAME has a lot of flux and it's a lot of changes. So what I do is I take a version, at this point I'm at 224, and then I backport fixes to it, but I do not add new features. Okay. So if something gets fixed in an existing emulation, I'll backport that to the existing machines in my copy. but I'm not going to be adding new machines and new stuff that's going to disrupt and possibly cause regressions. So, but yeah, it runs, like I said, it does an excellent job of running and emulating TRS-80 color computer 1, 2, 3, the TRS-80 models 1, the model 2 and 16 and 12. The 16 though, they don't quite have the 68,000 support in there yet. And most of, except for the Model 4, which the Model 4 just refuses to boot its disk in Model 4 mode. So this has been my white whale, as it were.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure you'll get there, Barry.
One of us could probably fix it if we really wanted to spend the time digging in. That's the problem. I mean, it's hard.
Anybody here that codes the TRS-80 GP emulator?
Yep.
That's everybody that does. George and Peter.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, maybe we can get something going with a correspondence, because the TRS-80 GP emulator has the code in it that boots the Model 4 disk successfully. So maybe I can go back and forth, and I can dig into that a little bit. I can maybe figure out what MAME is missing and borrow code and move it across so the MAME will work with the Model 4 as well.
Sure, it would be good to have kind of a native guide to MAME too, because it's massive and it's got its own way of doing things, and it's quite a slog to sort of do anything with it.
Development boy, you're telling me. Yeah, I've been there.
What OS are you running MAME on?
I have MAME running on Windows 11.
Oh, okay.
I have MAME running on a Windows 10 machine. I have MAME running on a Linux box, and I have MAME running on my primary dev system, which is my MacBook Pro.
Yeah, I see. Okay,
Which
so you're familiar with
which is what I'm currently joined to this conference from.
Yeah, I asked because my my emulator does boots Model 4 just fine, but it only runs on Linux. So, but you might have more fun with George's. I don't know.
Which emulator is that?
Extras.
XTRS?
Yes.
No, it runs on my Mac too. I
okay.
ported it and I compiled it and I got it running. Since Mac, the new Macs, are Unix based, I found it fairly trivial to take XTRS and port it to the Mac.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be running X or something, but
there's Xorg has a X11 interface for the Mac, which you can install, and it requires that. So, but yeah, otherwise, XTRS will work on a Mac, and it didn't require any massive changes to do it either.
Yeah, well, so you could look at that too. I mean, that's another possibility. But I don't want to say that mine's better than George's, not at all. But it's just another alternative.
I don't care. I just need something that reads a bloody Model 4 disk, So does that? That's a good point. I might try to give see
Thanks
what it's
for that,
doing.
Barry. Will you come back next month and tell us how you get along with it?
At this rate, it'll probably be like next year or next 6 months, because I've been working on this. Like I said, this has been my white whale for a while for the TRS-80 line on MAME, and I've been struggling with this.
Reach out to George. George, can you offer him some wisdom?
Yeah, I imagine I could help figure it out.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we're running out of time here. Who's
quickies, Ian, if I may?
Yeah, Steve, go for it.
So excuse the camera wobble. I managed to source one of these, which is, as you'll see from a keyboard connector, is a little bit esoteric. That's one of the, in my case, white whale Japanese TRS-80. So that's a high-tech manufactured one, not a Texas manufactured one. And also Pete is waiting for one of these.
Ooh.
So I've managed to source Pete a high-res Model 1 from Tanda UK. One came up, and I've managed to split it. And Patrick, I've got that expansion interface for you as well for that guy from France. So all that's sorted.
Did you get in contact with him?
No, I haven't yet, mate. I'll sort that out this weekend.
Steve,
And for
are you able
Ira,
to dump the ROM? Are you able to dump the ROM from the Japanese version?
so this isn't a kanji one, Ira. It's a standard English one. So the only thing that the actual board layout is significantly different. It's so, for example, there's only two 2114s for video memory, those sorts of things, rather than a whole raft of single bit chips. There's some really nice things to allow testing to be done. It's just a more modern, better produced version. You know, if you're going to produce it 4 years later, this is what you would produce. I can certainly dump the ROMs if you want them dumped. Cool.
Wouldn't be bad to have.
Consider it done. And equally, if I'm now sending ROMs to Ira, Ira wants a copy of this as well.
Always good.
Yeah. So the old 4-pen plotter printer technical reference manual of undoubtable rareness, but of very little use. Mav, back to you, mate.
Peter Stinsky's favorite printer.
Oh my. Hey, Steve, that Japanese Model 1, so was that sold how was that sold? Where was that sold?
So
everywhere but the USA.
Yeah, so it was mainly mainland Europe. It's quite common in places like Belgium and the Netherlands, but this is the only one I've ever seen online available in the UK. So
we got a lot of it here in
it?
Australia.
High tech.
And what was the case like?
Oh, okay.
What was the case?
Sorry,
like?
I missed. So the case is identical. It looks absolutely identical. So it doesn't look anything like that Japanese one that we saw on Twitter, but it's made by the same people that made that one.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to see one, I can bring one to Tandy Assembly.
Yeah, bring one. It'd be nice to see.
And I'll also be bringing a kanji model.
Oh, you've got a kanji one. Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
So if we need the ROM stumped, Ira, I'll do that when I have it open because it's not working currently. It looks like probably a bad Z80. So I'll dump the ROMs when you.
That would be great. I do like to compare the ROMs and see what's what. And of course, we need George and Peter to immediately emulate both.
Eric, you need to bring one of your LNWs to sell to me as well.
Oh, do I? Huh?
Your nicest one, please.
Okay, thanks for that, Steve. All right, who else got anything to say? Armadeep? Hi, mate.
Hey, everyone. That was a great segue mentioning the LNW because that was one of the things I was going to talk about. I'll keep it short since we have so little time. There was a conversation on the Discord, and I remembered that somewhere I have a unbuilt LNW80 board.
Unbuilt?
Digging through stuff trying to find it. Because Paul wanted a photograph of both sides of it. He thinks he can actually, maybe reproduce it. So that'd be kind of great. I'm still digging through stuff. I have a lot of older stored boxes where I think it is, so it'll take a little bit to get to it. But I did get to the Model 4 student workstation. And again, another interesting segue from the last conversation was dumping ROMs. I think that's what the objective was on that one, because it's thought that the Model 4 diskless with the wing nut and dip switch thing on the back has a different ROM, so it could start up properly. So we'll get the ROM out of there, and I just need to change the refuzz on it before powering it up. So pretty close on that. And that's what all going on right now.
It's always interesting, the network stuff. We haven't got who's our network specialist?
Joel
Hilliard. Yeah. He's been doing a lot with the old TRS-80 network, so hopefully he'll join us next time and tell us how he's coming along with his various network things. I know he's after software. That's another kind of neglected collector area, is all the educational software, which Tandy did push fairly significantly in their catalogs, but actual turning up on eBay and various places, some of these titles may only come up once a decade or something. So he's looking for those sort of things. All right, we've got a few minutes to go. I'll allow this month to go a couple of minutes over time. So anyone else got anything?
Well, Amardeep, yes, those there are two ROMs that are absolutely known as missing the Model 4 network student station. The 50 hertz, I'm sorry, the 60 hertz, and then the general. So ROM C is what's missing, and we have the checksums as to what they would be.
Okay, well, I'll get those out of there.
Thank you.
Ian?
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about that that I guess it was a warehouse or something that you went to, and you had to identify some boards and stuff. You went with Neil, I think.
Oh well, yeah. On my way, on my way back to Australia when we were leaving Niagara Falls on our way to Toronto, there was a deceased estate there, which Neil and I dropped in, and there was all manner of equipment there. It was quite fascinating. This collector had been enthusiast and hoarder. I don't know where people like that come from, but they end up with a lot of stuff. But there was all sorts of things there. Not a lot of Coco stuff, but some Model 1s with smashed cases, which I bought for parts. They had one each there, a Model 2, 12, 16, and 16B.
Evidently did repairs for Radio Shack, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the story. I think he worked at Radio Shack for a few years, not for the whole TRS-80 era. And so the equipment that he had there sort of seemed to mainly concentrate on the years 1981 to about 87 or something like that. So so that was fun going to that. I wish I could have spent more time there, but the logistics of buying stuff and getting it back to Australia meant that it was going to be nigh on impossible for me to buy anything there. But they do show up these deceased estates from time to time, and you sort of got to get onto them.
Hey, Mav, you were in Niagara Falls and you didn't come visit?
Yeah,
it's pretty far. It's pretty
well. From my
Only
hotel
8
room,
hours.
I could see the bridge over to Buffalo. Is that
I'm
the
only
bridge?
8 hours from Buffalo, so.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'll hire a car next time and actually spend longer. I actually only spent a week there, and quickly after a few days realized that I probably should have spent a few more days there. So if I do a return visit next year, I'll probably double that amount of time, and we can work something out.
Well, let me know.
Yeah. Yep. Have I forgotten anyone? Put your hands up if I've forgotten you. Peter Bartlett, hi, latecomer.
Yeah, sorry I showed up so late.
Turn your volume down a bit, man. It's you're blowing out the
How do I do that? I don't know.
just push your chair back. Push your chair back a little bit from the microphone.
I'm not in a chair.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it down.
There you go. Use your inside voice.
Grow a longer beard and you'll be muffled.
Yeah, well, I've got the Viking voice. What can I say? So all that I have to report. Pardon?
Tandy Assembly. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, I hope I can make it this year.
Now you say that every year and you manage to make it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's all about causing some drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Trumpets better be there with you.
So all I have to report in my booming voice, apparently, which I have no idea how to turn down, is that I have nothing really to report. It's just like last time. I'm building and selling, building and selling.
Yeah, tell me about it. I know I've been crazy since I got back from holiday. I've only just caught up. So
yeah, I want to finish my prototypes, but there's just never any time, which is the same thing I said last time. So nothing has changed. I just, I'm sorry I was late to the party here, but I just wanted to show up and say hi.
Yep. Okay. No, be late again. We'll see you next month. Okay, Bartlett.
Right.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for coming. All right. Is that everyone? Anyone else got a quick word before I wind this thing up for this month?
I'm sure everybody knows about John Roach, right?
Yes, I mentioned that earlier. It's very sad his passing, but I also sent out a message that if you know any TRS-80 old timers that we really should be interviewing, put them through to Peter, and let's get them interviewed while they still know everything.
Okay.
All righty then. Okay, everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to do this again in a month's time, and look forward to seeing you all then.
All right. Bye,
Sure.
everyone.
Thanks, guys. Good evening.